Hi, it's Danielle. Welcome to Permission Granted. Today, I want to talk a little bit about trauma. I'm just going to start there because the purpose of this space is to discuss and uncover all of the aspects of healing, right? The ups, the downs, the times we go backwards, the times we're moving forward, the times it's scary to check, the times we're feeling courageous and strong, all of it. Really just humanize the process. And like I've said before, while I don't disclose intimate details of my client's story, I am actively in my healing journey, so I can tell my story. But I want to start here. I want to start by saying that word trauma just sounded so big and scary. It seemed to me that it had to involve blood, guts, brutality. And if it didn't have like all of those simultaneously at the same time, you couldn't use that word trauma. So I have very limited memories of my childhood. And what's interesting, in some ways I have like this really beautiful memory, and in some ways it's like blank slate. I don't remember any of it. I'll be with my girlfriends and they're like, "Girl, don't you remember?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got nothing." And I just kind of for so long thought it was just like, oh, I just have a bad memory, or it's just scatty, or it's just all over the place. But I did not realize I had disassociated. And my premier coping mechanism for trauma previously was disassociation. And that's just kind of like removing yourself from the situation. In my case, wiping it away, tucking it away. It's still in my body. It's still stored, but I'm not accessing it. In my mind, I thought, A+ for you. You're doing a really, really good job. This is the best way to deal with it because you're able to move on. You're like, it's not holding me back. I'm good. I'm good. I don't have any of those memories. So I'm not attached to anything that was, and I'm not negatively impacted. Well, the interesting thing is it's stored in your body and it will pop out all the time. It pops out in a myriad of ways. It can pop out in autoimmune diseases. It can pop out in acne. It can pop out in holding on to weight. It can pop out in bad breath. Like there's so many ways that stored trauma shows up in your body. It shows up in your personality. It shows up in your demeanor. It showed up for me in anxiousness and control, perfectionism. And for me, I was like, well, that's just who I am. So when I realized that my lack of memory was or could be a result of trauma, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I can say I had trauma. I did not have a good childhood, but can I say that I have trauma? I've even seen it on the other side of I've had a pristine childhood. Can I say I have trauma? And my definition of trauma is a circumstance or an event that was adverse, that you didn't enjoy, that changed the way you see yourself or the world, and backed up by evidence. So it's a matter of something happened. I didn't like the way it made me feel. Even if I don't understand it, it changed the way I see myself or the world. Now I got to protect myself, or I can't do that anymore. This is going to happen. And it's backed up by evidence. You can prove that this happened, right? So that's my definition of trauma. And when it happens as a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 12-year-old, any age, right? When it happens, it gets memorialized at that age and stuck in your body. It does not have the opportunity to grow as you grow. It just stays 3, 5, 7, 12, 22, 31, whatever. When I realized that and started doing research and digging and decided to dig and find memories, something interesting happened. So first I was good. I was like, listen, I don't remember. Could be because of trauma, not convinced yet, but I don't really need to go poking around. I don't really need to go poking around. I don't really need to go and find out what's there. I was petrified of what I was going to find. I was so scared because I was like, listen, if something has happened that caused me to block out my entire childhood, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to actively go back and revisit that. No, thank you. I'm good. Never mind. What's interesting though, so spoiler alert, I decided to do the work and got my courage about myself and decided to do the work. But what's interesting is when I started, I did EMDR therapy with my therapist, and when the memories came back, I was flooded with positive memories. It hadn't even dawned on me that recovering memories would bring back positive ones too. It was like the furthest thing from my thoughts in my mind. It was like, no, it was never even a consideration that I would have blocked out positive memories too. And while that sounds like a good thing, I was so scared to move forward because it changed and it disrupted my identity. I was like, well, I no longer am the person who gets to say I had this horrible childhood if I have all of these great memories. And these are unintended side effects of healing. Is when you do start doing the work, going back, reprocessing these memories, sometimes asking questions and getting more information, it can shake you at your core of who you thought you were. So one thing about holding on to things, when you have these predictable patterns, even if you hate them, even if it gives you really bad outcomes, you know what to depend on. So you keep doing those things. You're not really interested in giving them up because you're like, listen, I know this type of bad and I'm prepared for this type of bad. But when you inject something new and you're unsure of the outcome, see, the brain's number one job is to keep you safe, and change is the opposite of safety. It's just so interesting how being able to absorb the fact that I had positive memories, and I had positive memories from some of the people I had previously categorized as the villains. So I was like, whoa, are they not the villain? Like, if can both things be true? And it really laid me out for a period of time. I went back to my therapist. I was like, yeah, we're good. We're not doing this anymore. She's so amazing. She's a really good fit for me because she has the capacity to handle all of my flavors and all of the shades of my healing, which I love her. But I just wanted to mention that healing, even when you find out positive things, can be it can really impact your core because it goes up against what you've believed for so long. And I often find that when you start reprocessing some of these incidents, you get a larger understanding, which also sometimes gives more breadth and knowledge to the villain. And you have more empathy for situations, which sometimes can feel really, really, really uncomfortable. So I just want to reiterate again my definition of trauma. It's an adverse circumstance that changes the way you see yourself or the world, backed up by evidence and stored in the body. When I really understood the breadth of that definition, I no longer felt like I didn't deserve that title of trauma. Some people use big T, little t to talk about big traumas versus little traumas. I don't prefer to look at it that way. Trauma is trauma. Not one trauma or form of pain is more than the other. It all impacts our body. And when we get comfortable being able to openly talk about those moments that shifted us and caused us to put on more armor, we'll equally cultivate the courage to be able to find those safe spaces to take that armor off, especially if it no longer serves us. And that's the whole point of this space. I want to hear, what are your thoughts about trauma? Do you feel comfortable saying? Because, another spoiler alert, everybody has experienced trauma. Everybody. It's just an experience that was unfavorable that changed the way we see ourselves or the world, backed up by evidence. It shifts us. It has us adjust our bodies and put on a little bit something different. It can be simple as you walk into a room to go hug someone and they pull back and you're like, oh, I can't be vulnerable and hug people because when I do, people pull back from me. That's trauma. It can be some of the more obvious, brutal things like assault. There's so many things. For me, I even experienced food trauma, like food scarcity. I would have moments where I would be hungry as a kid, but I lived in a home where there was a refrigerator full of food, but I couldn't eat that food. That's trauma. I'm in a loving environment with family, and yet I didn't have access to my basic needs, even though I was in need. That's trauma. So when we really neutralize the word and understand the breadth of it, no one leaves unscathed. Everybody has a touch of it. And I think the more that we feel comfortable talking about it, we can process through it and not allow that to drive this show today. See, unresolved trauma will rob you of your future. It will keep you in this space of constriction. It will keep you in this, what's not gonna happen is that again. Reprocessing it gives you your freedom back. That's what I do inside of my program, and that's what I do inside of my life. This space is to let you know that it is not always fun. But what does feel good is the freedom that you get once you move through it. So even though I kicked and screamed and really had a moment when I realized that I blocked out positive and negative memories, I got an opportunity to sit down and have some really beautiful conversations with the people previously categorized as villains. And being able to share some of the things that I discovered and learned and get the opportunity to get to know them differently. I want this for so many people. The freedom and the peace and the calm that I get to experience from doing the healing work, I really, really, really want so many other people to experience it, because being able to have access to peace and freedom regardless of your external circumstance is priceless. And oftentimes people think that you can only have peace if this happens or when this happens, but so much of your life is taken and stolen from you, not being able to live fully, waiting. So from this space today, I want to hear, have you experienced trauma? Do you feel comfortable with that word? Do you feel like you're not deserving of using that word? And if you do use that word, what have you used? What techniques, what methods, what have you used to work through it? And what have been your impact? What's been the impact? Have you had any moments like me where I was like, oh, this is too much? It shook my identity. And I'm like, I don't even know who that is if I had a good childhood too. I don't even know who she is. That is not my signature. That's not the person I've been saying for 4 decades. Like, if I had good memories too, what does that make me mean? Am I a fraud now? So I want to hear. Again, this space is a conversation. I just want to start having conversations. So I'd love to hear from you. Oh, okay. So I'll learn how to do all this. So I want to make sure that we stay in contact. So I'd love for you to subscribe. If there was any value here, I'd love for you to like it. If you know anyone else that needs to hear from this, please share it. And I want to hear from you, so comment below and turn on the alert notification so you know when I post another video. But I really do want a community of courageous humans willing to get to the core to access their freedom, and that this space feels safe enough to do so. All right, that's it for now. Thank you.